Hello and welcome to my after action report of my second ever RTT. This RTT was ran a bit differently to my last one. So in this one there was no painting restriction. So the maximum for every game was 90 points, as opposed to the normal 100. This is so you can try out different things. You don't need to use the army that you spent all your time on. And it was ran as a more beginner friendly event, as opposed to the last one that I went to, where it was for ITC points and everyone was trying their hardest. This was a lot more of a relaxed event. There was no ITC scoring points up for grabs. It was just a come in, have fun, and I much preferred it to the last event I went to. I must say I did enjoy it a lot more. But with that, I'm going to speak about my army list, as I was taking Tyranids this time, as opposed to my normal World Eaters. So in my list, I had a Death Leaper, a Hive Tyrant. The Hive Tyrant had the Synaptic Control enhancement, which gave it -1 damage. I had a Neuro Tyrant that had the Power of the Hive Mind enhancement. This gives his ranged weapon an extra AP and an extra strength, which came in really handy this game. Well, these games. I had a Parasite of Mortrax, which had the... I'm not even going to attempt to say the name of that one. Basically, stuff within 9 inches of it, they subtract 1 from their leadership characteristic. So this makes battle shocks a bit easier. And I had the Swarm Lord as my warlord. I then had a Byrivore, 2 Exocrines, 2 Norn Emissaries, 2 lots of 3 Von Ryan Leapers, and 1 lot of 6 Xenothropes. I had heard a lot about how good Xenothropes were with the Neuro Tyrant, but I didn't realise just how good they were until I was playing these games. They were absolutely insane in every game, like 100% my most valuable unit. The Norns were obviously helpful, but they were great at soaking up damage and generally being in the way, whereas the Xenothropes with the Neurotyrant just shredded through everything. If you couldn't tell already, this is going to be a lot more relaxed compared to my normal battle reports. I'm not going into all the details. I'll mention a few bits here and there, but for the most part I'm just going to talk about the event in general and my Tyranid force. I took heavy inspiration from, I believe his name is Evan something, or something Evans. He had a second place grand tournament win using pretty much this list at the Denver Brawl in the beginning of October. But I basically based this list around his, so big credit towards him. Yeah, basically. Within this game, you can see at the moment, as you can see, it was against World Eaters. The primary was Terraform, which you get points for. You get 4 points per objective you hold, and you get an extra 2 when you're scoring for each objective you have terraformed, which is an action that completes in your opponent's turn. At the end of your opponent's turn, sorry. So it's basically hold objectives, do actions on objectives. This whole tournament, I took fixed secondaries. So I took engage in all fronts, and I took cleanse in every game. Engage in all fronts was relatively easy to score every round. even if it was just for 3, because my home field, I almost always had my Byrevol, and 1 Exocrine was pretty much there every time. The bottom right one is quite easy to move into due to the deployments we had. This one in particular, because you had the entire length of the edge closest to me. You had a bit more on the left of it where your big building is. Then it came a bit shorter once it got to the L shape in the middle, but you could still deploy all across the bottom. So instantly off the get-go, I had those bottom 2, not a problem. And then I just shot spore mines into the other 2 quarters until later in the game when I could move comfortably into it. So as you see on screen at the minute, in the last picture you saw like this, Angron was there. The Xenothropes and the Neuro Tyrant took out Angron on their own. The lethal hits from the Swarm Lord really helped. So I shot them in the D3s. So it was D3 shots on each Xenothrope, and then the Nero Tyrant had his Flamer attack, which obviously isn't affected by the lethal hits because it is Torrent, but it did still knock a couple wounds off him if I'm going off memory. But all those D3 attacks, then any 6s, lethals, but they were hitting on 2s already because the the Neuro Tyrant gives them +1 to hit, and if units battle shocked, he also gives them +1 to wound. He wasn't battle shocked, but I was still hitting on 2s and wounding on 5s. So mixture of that deals D3 damage, and yeah, they just destroyed Angron, and that was when I noticed, okay, I massively underestimated them. I knew they had to be decent from everything I'd heard about them, but it was like, I believe with the enhancement they are 315 points, so it's a very expensive unit. But what you can see on screen now is what happened in turn 3. So he literally had 1 group of Jackals on the centre objective and his Forge Fiend at the back right. And that was all he had left. On screen now is my turn 4. So I had cleared the Jackals and my Norn Emissary was about to kill the Forge Fiend. Then going into turn 5, this was my movement in turn 4. And then I charged the Forge Fiend, consolidate onto the objective. So in turn 5, I then had free roam to score everything. So max on cleanse, max on engage, and I had also terraformed the middle right objective and middle left objective at this point. I did terraform the top right objective as well, but I was ready to score a max on primary, so it didn't do anything for me. However, for the sake of it, I terraformed it, which ended the game 76-45 to me. The scorecard will come up in a minute, but just so you know for now, I do have my opponent's army list, which I'll now read out now. So he had 2,000 points exactly. He had Angron, a Lord on Juggernaut with the Favoured of Khorne enhancement. He had this attached to a group of 8-bound. He had Massive Executions with the Berserker Glaive, which was with 10 Berserkers. A group of 10 Jackals, 2 lots of 10 Berserkers, 2 Rhinos, 2 lots of 3 8-bound, 2 lots of 3 Exalted 8-bound, and a Forge Fiend. In general, the list was okay, but he threw too much at me and he managed to kill He killed both my Von Ryan Leapers. One of them was using 10 Berserkers, one of them was with his 8-bound and his Lord. But by doing that, his Berserkers were then just stood there. So I had free reign to shoot everything at them. His Angron failed the charge, which is why the Xenothrapes killed him. And when on the right side, he charged my Norn Emissary, which just stood there. My Death Sleeper was behind the cover next to my Norn and heroically intervened into the Berserkers. He fought before the Berserkers did and killed the Master of Execution with his precision attack. So I believe he also took like 3 or so Berserkers with him. So they then didn't have their big damage dealer. So they threw all attacks into the Norn, dealt 5 or 6 wounds to him, not enough to worry about, and then the Norn just slapped him and killed the rest. So that was it for the first game. Game 2, this, as you can see, is Purge the Foe and Smoke and Mirrors. Purge the Foe, you score 4 points for holding 1 or more objectives, another 4 if you hold more than your opponent. You then get 4 points if you kill an enemy unit that turn, and an extra 4 at the end of the battle round if you killed more enemy units than your opponent killed friendly units. So basically, hold 1, hold more, kill 1, kill more. Is the easy way of putting it. Unfortunately, this game I was placed against Chaos Demons, and we all know how how I struggle against Chaos Demons. But we gave it a go. So, exact same fixed objectives. I obviously have the same army because I couldn't change it during this event. So, my opponent's list contained, if I can find it, there we go. So he had Bellicor, a Bloodmaster, a Bloodthirster, Shalaxi Hellbane, 1 unit of 10 Bloodletters, 1 unit of 10 Pink Horrors, 1 unit of 10 Plague Bearers, 1 unit of 6 Blood Crushers, 1 unit of 6 Flamers, and 2 lots of 5 Fleshhounds. He had his Flamers in reserves, and he had his unit of 10 Bloodletters with the Bloodmaster in reserves. And I believe they were the only 2 things. I'm not entirely sure, but I believe they were the only 2. What I didn't know, and you will see a bit later on, demons have can spend a command point and they can deep strike within 3 inches. So that is incredibly powerful and something that I had completely forgot about. So my Byrivore was not so safe this game, to say the least. And the Norn Emissary, he's good at killing smaller units, but when it comes to bigger units, there's not an awful lot he can do against it. And this game was when I noticed the major drawback for this army, because I've got a lot of high AP, high strength weapons. However, there's not a lot of said attacks. So say even the Norn Emissary, he's hitting a strength 10, AP minus 2, damage 3, or strength 8, AP minus 2, damage 2. Because he's got normal attacks and he's got extra attacks. But even that, the AP means nothing against demons. So that's like 10 attacks. Let's say on a miracle, all of those go through. Most, if not all, demons have a 4+ invulnerable save. So only 5 of those are going through. And then they also have a stratagem that they can use that gives them they can reroll 1s on their invulnerable saves. So you've then got another 50-50 chance, giving you about a 75% chance of saving whatever's thrown at you. Which, needless to say, did not go in my favour. However, it was a really fun game, and my opponent was a joy to play against. I've also kept in contact with him, and he has now shown me how to set up Tabletop Simulator properly. So you may not just have to look at stock images now that I've taken from games, and for when I want to play or just talk to you about something, you don't have to see random images in the background anymore. Because I'm hoping I'll be able to show you on Tabletop Simulator what I'm talking about, or I will just have a game that I'm playing on Tabletop Simulator going in the background while I talk to you, so you got something to watch. But with that out of the way, it was a great game. It was a very close game for a majority of it. But this game is when I realised, instead of cleanse, against melee based armies, I should probably take behind enemy lines instead. Because the problem with cleanse is, against demons especially, they were all over me, and there was only so many I could kill each turn. So I just could not score cleanse. I could hardly get objectives off him anyway. As I mentioned earlier about relatively low attacks, but a high AP, high damage. Against demons, that doesn't mean much. The AP does nothing, and the damage is good, but you got to get it through because they got 50-50 chance of saving everything, and they can make that up to, I don't know the exact maths on it, but any ones that you roll for then goes up to a 75% chance. So there's a lot of ways they can manipulate the dice to be what they want it to be and put themselves in the right situation for what they need. So yeah, in future, instead of cleanse, I'm going to take behind enemy lines against melee based armies, being World Eaters, Blood Angels, some Tyranid forces, Chaos Demons, that kind of thing. Because this game I scored nothing on cleanse at all. I only managed to score 12 on engaging all fronts, which is because just whenever I showed up somewhere, I just got my shit kicked in. Like, there was nothing I could do against this army efficiently anyway. So as you can tell from what I've said already, I wasn't doing great on primary. So I did end up taking a secret mission, which I did manage to score. I was looking at them thinking there wouldn't be any that I could score. However, there was one called Scatter Cohesion, which is end of the battle, like the other ones. When there are no units from your opponent's army on the battlefield, which I couldn't get. So, or every unit from your opponent's army that is on the battlefield meets one or more of the following conditions. That unit is battle shocked, that unit is below half strength, or that unit is more than 3 inches away from all objective markers. So as you see now, most things were still on objective markers that I couldn't really clear. But by the end of the game, they were all below half strength. So I did pull off the secondary mission that made the game look a bit closer than it did. Ending the game 52-64. I did lose this game, but as I said previously many times, I keep repeating myself, I didn't have the right stuff for this matchup, so I didn't mind a loss in this situation. But again, my opponent was great, still in contact with them, so cannot complain about the game overall. The score sheet is about to come up, and then we'll go on to the next game. Don't really have anything else to say about this game. So I'm going to do a bit of a sidetrack. I am going to be entering a doubles tournament with my partner who plays Drakari. I will be playing Tyranids in this tournament using the same detachment I have been here, which is Synaptic Nexus. I'm not 100% set on a list yet, but I would definitely be using Tyranids. I would definitely be using Synaptic Nexus. I'm probably going to be using a similar list to this one. The Neurotyrant and the Xenothropes will definitely be in it. And I'm considering dropping the non-emissaries as I'm only going to have 1,000 points. But I would like to take the Hive Tyrant for lethal hits, because that did a lot for me in these games. Not 100% sure yet, but there will be a video on that at some point. Yeah, we are now going to move on to game 3. Which again, I had a great opponent. This is not taken away from the first opponent I had. I know I've said this for 2 and 3, but the first opponent was great as well. So, game 3, take and hold, which is just hold objectives. You get 5 points for each objective you hold. Mission rule, hidden supplies, which just means there is an extra objective in no man's land, which is why you can see there is 6 instead of the normal 5. In this game, my opponent was playing Necrons with the Awakened Dynasty. The rule for this one is, I believe it was whenever he has a character within a unit, it then is +1 to hit, I believe is what it did. So he's very much based around his characters. So he had a Chronomancer, a Hexmark Destroyer, an Overlord, a Plasmancer, a Scorpec Lord, 10 Immortals, 20 Necron Warriors, a group of 10 Necron Warriors, Canoptic Doomstalker, a Canoptic Reanimator, 5 Death Marks, a Doomsday Arc, 1 lot of 3 Locust Heavy Destroyers and 1 lot of 2 Locust Heavy Destroyers, group of 10 Lich Guard, a group of 6 Scorpec Destroyers, and 1 lot of 3 Tomb Blades. Going against Necrons, I was very worried considering most of their army has lethal hits. And I did start off this game pretty badly. As you can see now, this was my deployment, and I very much misplaced one of my Norns, and they were shut off the board first turn. I did not go first, which was my plan. After doing some moving, you can now see where my second Norn ended up, hoping to make the charge against the Necron Warriors, which it didn't. So that Norn was then shot off the board the next turn. However, this game was very fun because it was very much he would shoot and knock off a few of my big stuff. I would then have my turn and knock off a load of his big stuff. And then that literally happened the entire game. It was so fun. It was just, we were taking off like between 200 and 500 points every turn. And that happened up to about turn 4 when we were taking off models every turn, but it wasn't in as big of chunks as previously had been. But it was a great game. Like, the whole time we were very close on points. And the game, this is one of my closest games I've ever had, which I'll reveal a bit further on as we go. But this game, my Parasite of Mortrax actually did something. So I normally use him just to go around, and he's there for engage, and he can cleanse just for being there, and someone can take over an objective, and then he'll jump in to be able to do cleanse on it. And he's just there as a secondary unit for the most part. His -1 aura for battle shocks obviously helps, but him himself doesn't do much. in my first game, the only thing he actually got in combat with was a lot of berserkers, but my opponent had CP to be able to interrupt me, so I fought with my Norn and managed to kill all of the berserkers, so he couldn't fight. In the second game, he tried to charge the flamers and died of Overwatch. But then in this game, he charged... What did he charge? He charged a Lich Guard. And he managed to kill a few of them, so he summoned his Ripper Swarms. I've used the Parasite in like 6 games now, like this being the 6th. And that is the first time he's actually being able to attack. That was my first time attacking with him. So that was quite nice that he actually managed to do something. And the Ripper Swarms actually did come in quite helpful. Because while you're within engagement range of Ripper Swarms, they half your unit's OC. So by doing that, I then held the objective over him with the Swarm Lord that was close to him. So even though he had some Lich Guard left, it took it down, so I could hold the objective. So it was really helpful in this game. My Neurotyrant and Xenothropes also managed to kill, I think it was 9 Lich Guard in one turn. Then the next turn in Overwatch, they wiped an entire unit of Immortals. And then, even once they got into the charge, because they were charging my Von Ryan Leapers, that because they had fights first, they then managed to kill the leader. So just having them there did a lot for me. They also killed his Death Marks and his Canoptic Reanimator. I believe that was something else they killed in the end. They did a lot for me this game, either way. And this game I actually managed to max out, engage in all fronts, and I got 18 points on cleanse out of 20. The only turn that I didn't get double cleanse was the first turn. Just I physically couldn't get to another objective without advancing, so I could not cleanse. And my nearest objective that you can see now was the middle left one that my Swarm Lord is currently on. And at this point in time on the first turn, he had a Overlord with his 10 Lich Guard on. So I couldn't take that from him to be able to cleanse. But that was the only time where I did not get max on cleanse. And as you can see, it's about to come up. It ended 88-87, which was an incredibly close game. The only thing stopping me getting maximum was that cleanse. So, and my opponent getting mutt for death first turn was quite unfortunate for him, because I just chose things that he physically could not see. I don't think there's much he could have done differently to have been able to get full points. The only thing I can think of is if he had different roles, bring it down, he would have ended up getting more points for, so could have won. But overall, great game. We had little to nothing left by the end of the game. And yeah, a 1 point different game. 1 point difference it was so fun. So overall, I came 4th out of 18 players, which I'm happy with. I went in hoping to get at least 1 win this time and came out with 2. So cannot complain at all. Met some great people while I was there. And so 2nd place and 3rd place were against each other in the final, and they ended up drawing. Had they have not drawn, I had more points overall than both of them. So again, had they have not drawn, I then would have came 3rd due to win-loss and me having more points. But thank you for watching this. I hope you enjoyed the bit of a different style. If you want to get in contact with me, Instagram or the comments is the best place. Please like, please subscribe, and I will see you next time.